talk about news, we talk about culture, and where we all breathe a sigh of relief because I'm finally caught up on And Just Like That. I am your host, Negin Farsad, and the national crisis is over. I saw Carrie's Last Supper outfit, and in some ways that's all that really matters. And I know that intro will be alienating to some in the audience, but will be welcoming to other people in the audience. And you know what? You're both right. Today, we won't talk about the Sex and the City spinoff, but instead we will talk about snack drawers under your bed when plant-based meats get weird. We'll also do a little light election stuff. We'll discuss the one place in America where socioeconomic classes mix. And finally, we'll weigh in on the internal debate over whether you should let people wear shoes in your home. It's more controversial than you think. Before we get into me introducing people, I just want to remind listeners, if you want to support the show, you can go to the Patreon. That's patreon.com/Negin Farsad. We just posted an episode about a wife who refused to go to a celebratory dinner for her husband's promotion because she didn't like the menu. So there was a lot to say about this lady. We also posted one about a parent's role and what saucy things their kids might be wearing out. Lots of feelings on that one. So we basically dip into all the thorny issues. The bonuses is where we get wild. So don't forget to go to patreon.com/Negin Farsad. You could support the show and get bonus episodes, and everyone's happy. Now, I'm so excited by today's panel. Oh my God, folks, this is an all-star panel, all right? You've been warned. Get ready, because we have with us, joining us for the manyth time, comedian. By the way, I've seen this man perform live, and he is just, truly excellent. I have never had a bad time watching him perform live. But on top of that, he is the host of the daily podcast called Stand Up with Pete Dominick, so titled because we have with us the excellent Pete Dominick. Hey, Pete.
Negin, it's great to be back on Fake the Nation. Very excited to be here and joining you back on your wonderful show.
Oh, thank you so much, Pete. We're always so happy to have you. And I'm also joined by now, folks, again, you've heard her on the show many times. They're a Broadway performer, an actor, co-host of the podcast Town Hall, a Black and queer podcast that is so excellent. You should be subscribing immediately. You always enjoy their takes. It is the one and only Peppermint.
Hey, Negin. It's so good to be here with you and Pete. I'm happy that we're finally on together.
Oh my gosh.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be the best show that's ever come out, I think.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure on the three of us. Here we go. Let's get into it with topic number one. Actually, before we get into it, can I just tell you, I have this I feel like I have a very weird feeling in my body today because I just performed for Columbia University's entering fresh people class. They don't call them fresh people, really, they call them first years. But I feel like it was a missed opportunity to, why don't we call them fresh people? Anyways, that's just a side complaint for me. But it was funny because I had to just go all out, do a full hour at 9 a.m. and then in front of 18-year-olds who are scared about life, because it's their third day in New York City. In college, all of the fears and everything, you know what I mean? I'm just I don't have any friends, and what's gonna happen to me? And oh gosh.
I used to perform orientation almost every year in several. I have a whole hour for those kids because I remember those days so vividly. God. And I think it's wonderful. I would never agree, as you have, to do it at 9 a.m. That's your
9 a.m. Good grief. That's even before the continental breakfast. I got to tell you, I was just walking today from the SAG-AFTRA picket line, and they were NYU has Radio City Music Hall for their orientation, NYU class of 2027. Welcome.
They go to Radio City Music Hall?
Apparently, darling, they changed the marquee and everything. I thought it was Lady Gaga performance, and it was NYU.
Wow,
I went to a state school, a 2-year state school in New York, and ours was at a Denny's.
Lies. How big was the class?
Very small. Peppermint.
Mine was a 2-year certificate school. We don't even get a real diploma. And ours was just in the parking lot. Anyway.
Wow, you really did downgrade me.
Ours was in a really quite beautiful auditorium that seated, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 people. So I don't know. I guess I win. Do I win? Were we competing?
Only if you're still doing what your degree was for, what you were studying.
No, I was sort of.
Then
I mean,
no.
I was a double major in undergrad, but then I went to graduate school
Okay.
for like 500 other things. So
Then
definitely
the schools win.
there's
The
a
school
no.
wins.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, 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 yeah.
I just
They
dropped
made
my
a lot of
daughter off for
money.
her first week of college. She's a freshman or a whatever person at Ithaca College, which is great because she's done far better than me. But now their orientations at all colleges, you guys, are online, apparently. I mean, they
What?
aren't.
Still?
No, they are and they aren't. What I learned is, and we can move on, but like a lot of college, you can optionally just stay in your dorm room. So if you didn't want to go to the orientation of Radio City at NYU, you probably could have watched it on Zoom, is my guess.
Oh my God, who wouldn't want to go to the orientation at Radio City? Jesus Christ.
I
All right,
know.
folks, clearly we can talk about nothing for a really long time, but instead we're going to jump into the actual first topic of this week, which is that we learned about a trend that's being immortalized on TikTok, and that trend is organized snack compartments for under your bed. Now, despite this being one of the dumbest sentences that I've ever uttered, I remember when I said we could talk about nothing. We're just going to continue talking about nothing just to amuse boosh the show. I want to know what you think of under the bed snacks.
Well, listen, I'll tell you, I have had many a snacks in my bed, both figuratively and literally, and
Hey.
some of them they end up under the bed either way. So it's all good. But I think this really is a very New York City kind of thing. I don't know. I haven't seen the trend myself, but it feels very New York. I'm not mad at organized drawers for anything and thinking smart about storage if you're in a New York City apartment, especially if it's a studio. Now, if it's a mansion, then we got problems.
What are we
But
doing? What are you doing?
yeah,
Why? Yeah.
exactly.
No, agree. I was like, this is a studio apartment phenomenon. Or what makes more sense now that I've just done a college gig, it's a dorm room thing. That makes a lot of sense in a dorm room. Pete, you should have the organization level in the snack drawer. First of all, it was like 12,000 calories. No, that's not even enough. It was like 100,000 calories worth of the worst ever for you snacks. Like if I ate 2 of those things, I would just blow up. You know what I mean? But also just the level of like decanting gummy bear bags into a particular jars. Peppermint is wooing, is swooning over this concept. But Pete, what do you think?
Well, I think if you live in one room or a van, then fine. Of course, you have your food nearby. Where else is it gonna be?
Right.
If that's not the case, then you're a monster. Now, unlike Peppermint, I have not had snacks in my bed, literally, because I don't want crumbs and so on. And I haven't had them figuratively because I'm married. So it's been so long.
Your spouse is not a snack. You better recant that.
That's not inaccurate.
And decant that.
I won't even put my phone near my bed because I think it's a personal detriment. Like, you have to have good health, good mental hygiene in that bed, and physical hygiene. I think the idea of having crumbs and attracting bugs and critters to my bed place where I cannot defend myself because I'm sleeping is the line I will not cross.
There's a lot of people who crossed that line during the pandemic. I have failed to tell you.
You're right. It's a good point. We're not talking about the pandemic. That's a good variable. But if you don't live in one room and it's not a pandemic,
what are you doing? And it's not a Canadian wildfire.
Could be yes.
Yeah, there's like 2 exceptions.
Yes.
I also want to say every time I'm sick, I cross that line. I bring.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not like doing it every morning, but like I have had a candy bar in the bed or something,
Right. Or if I'm sick, or if I'm like feeling really sorry for myself.
I can't see now. The only way I can see Peppermint now is with one of those little bed tables on their lap. Just a little,
no. I'll tell you.
In a glass.
I have had plenty of the time when I've had snacks in my bed the most have been when I've been recovering. When you said sick, recovering from I've had a couple surgeries. They've been, elective. And you can't get up and walk. And so like those chips are going to be they're going to be next to the bed.
Listen, I want to throw one controversial thing. I
Okay,
don't know how
please.
you
What,
identify,
darling? Tell us.
but I identify as white, and snacks in the bed, eating snacks in the bed seems like a very white thing. Maybe it's an all ethnicity thing, but it seems like we're filthier, I feel.
Interesting. You know what? This
I'm
is
not
just
gonna
going to come
argue
back in
with
the
you.
last segment when we talk about
Yeah,
shoes. But okay.
And
yeah.
I only
Let
say this, and I'll say, I
please.
know this is going to sound really even worse, but in college, my roommate was a black guy. I once ate while sitting on his bed, and he stabbed me with a plastic fork. So that's just one person. That's just one black
Trauma
person.
response.
He then said, as he did about everything, that's a white thing. He basically said that no matter what I did, though.
Right. Well, folks, let me know what you think about this very weird trend. But watch the video if you can find it on TikTok, because it's an incredible feat of organization for something that I think is. Also, I just want to say last thing about snacks. I'm not going to waste calories on snacks unless they're like high level. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to eat like my idea of like eating something that's bad for you is like this better be the best made thing if it's gonna cost me.
Oh, is that right? Huh.
That's the idea.
Well,
That's the
I
idea.
just want to ask one thing. Like, I'm not. Hey, the snacks be damned. What I'm here for is the underbed storage. Like, regardless of what's in the drawer.
That's different.
It's
True,
not
true.
new.
No,
but it's great.
And my underbed is you know, is a slut for items. Is there so many things?
My underbed has. I could talk about that forever. I'm all about minimalism, and I've got all those Tupperware things with the wheels.
Hiding it.
Tupperware things with the wheels under my bed, and also I also have a small child.
You got to put them somewhere. All right, let's go into the next weird thing, which is the elections. Last week we missed everything because we taped early. I was away. Thank you so much to Benari for hosting. What an excellent show with Christian Finnegan and Liz Winstead and Benari Poulton. So we missed the debate. We missed the what's that other thing that happened? The indictment. I just want to give the two of you an opportunity to just say whatever you need to say. Let's start with the debates if you have any thoughts.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have not been able to even look at a Republican, much less support one forever. But I'll tell you, this Vivek Ramaswamy, he really impressed me. I think I'm going to get behind his campaign.
In what way?
And I think in the way that
shoving it over.
I can't get enough of this cat. Trump made it so that if you had experience in government or politics, you weren't probably going to be a great candidate anymore. It just became like WWF. Now it's like, who's the best performer? Doesn't matter if you've ever done anything. Certainly doesn't matter if you're a good person or honest. It's just like, who's good? So this cat is good. He's slick. No matter what they say, would they read his quotes right back to him? He's like, well, that's not what I said. He is really good. And that's the future of the Republican Party.
Yeah,
Peppermint.
It's wild. It's definitely wild. I didn't watch the debates. I can't say I much care for him. He is charismatic, which is something that can't be said for a lot of the other contenders that were on that stage. And so he was probably the star of I either am going to continue to support Donald Trump and all of his criminalities, or I'd like to be his vice president contest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the pop culture piece to come out of the two pop culture pieces to come out of the debates that I was most fascinated with was the TikTokification of Ron DeSantis's expressions.
Yes,
on there. I thought that was great, and then also the playing of that song "Rich Men from Richmond" during the debate, which has been in and of itself topic of debate. And a phenomenon, but apparently Oliver Anthony, the singer-songwriter, came out and said that he's not conservative, not Republican, and that song was actually written about those folks. I think the jury is still out because some of the lyrics in the song, he actually attacks like fat people and the fudge rounds that they're maybe not storing under their beds. But I thought that was probably the most interesting.
Well, his complaint about taxes was a red flag to me. We're taxed on everything. Like, stop it. The problem is that we're not taxed enough. Well, many, the rich aren't taxed. Like you out yourself when you start complaining about taxes. If you want to complain about taxes, sure, but talk about taxing billionaires that are getting away with it. Don't like act like the rest of us. It's a preposterous. I didn't like that, but those are good. I love Peppermint's both those takeaways. The Ron DeSantis facial expressions. He's not human, so.
It's what the facial expressions are wild because you can really see an attempt at like holding a smile and like feeling a smile. It was so I was just like, oh my God, I've never had to think about feeling this smile. Like I think you know what I mean?
Deep cut here for the Trekkies in the audience, but like it reminds me of when Data, who was an android and wasn't human, was attempting to express human emotion and feeling, which he couldn't do. And so it's like this awkward, like, kind of thing happening.
Staying on the trend, C-3PO is more human than Ron DeSantis.
No doubt.
Now, okay, so let's move on to quickly and just if you have any remarks on the indictments, it's funny because I kept thinking as I was walking to the studio this week, oh, like I wasn't really around for the indictments. I was away. So like but I was away like in Chicago. I was still in America working on another like news quiz show. So it's like I was deeply here for the indictments. But oddly, I just don't know that it hit in the way. Did it hit? What did it do for either of you? I feel like oddly alienated from the cultural conversation around the indictments.
Yeah, I think it was, sorry, Peppermint, I'll just jump in. I think it was really important, very consequential. I think these 19 defendants being brought to justice for trying to steal the election from Georgia voters where, black folks, especially black women, saved that state twice, and now you got a black prosecutor, and I don't miss the symbolism there, and neither do a lot of the angry white folks who are saying, going after her, including the House Republicans. But the difference between this, you could say we've got indictment, fever, too much of it, you start to turn away. No, because you saw the mugshot, which of course helped him raise more money, and because, he looks like he's such a victim all the time, but it's really important. And I think you're going to see a lot of justice, not only with Trump. I'm very excited to see Rudy Giuliani go to jail. So this is a good thing. It's something to celebrate. It's something we've been waiting for. Donald Trump's mugshot goes down in history with the worst of the worst.
Well, I have a mugshot question for you. I don't know, Peppermint, if you know the answer. How come mugshots were always in black and white? Like, am I nuts?
I don't know. Maybe since digital cameras, they're different.
I guess. I mean, there was something about the mugshot that almost felt like too high quality or something. Like I just thought that the mugshot was going to be like grosser.
Well, he's one of the few who had hair and makeup just before.
Right. That's right. That's right. I was also just a little bit like, is there a fucking ring light in that mugshot? Like, what are we doing here? Like, I was like disappointed that the mugshot didn't look more like a driver's license photo or something. You know what I mean?
Whoever took that picture, whoever was behind that camera, if there's a camera, I don't know whoever hit the click on the mouse that took that picture also gets to go down into history. I can't wait to buy that person's book.
Well, I don't understand how they were allowing, regarding the mugshots specifically, I can't understand how they were allowing some of these characters to take these mugshots in the poses that they were. Donald Trump's head was basically bowed to the floor. And then this Trevian Kuti woman, I don't know if you saw her mugshot. She has the most devious looking, like gremlin looking smile. I don't understand if they were telling her a joke or like if she was like, this is the picture that you see before you get like possessed by the devil in all those scary movies. And I just didn't understand. I thought like you're supposed to have a little bit of decorum, like you can't wear hats in the courtroom and you have to stand up and look into the camera and when you're getting a mugshot.
I thought you can't smile.
Yeah, like what's happening?
I think people think a lot about those mugshots before they take them, whatever they want to project, right? I think we probably all would if we were sober when I took mine. Is my mic on? But
hey, come on.
Rudy Giuliani, I'm surprised more people aren't talking about during Rudy Giuliani's mugshot, he turned into a bat. Which I thought would get more headlines.
Because vampires
was there some mascara dripping from his face?
Hair dye. I
Okay,
do think that
oh yeah.
the release of the mugshots, because Trump's been indicted several times and we haven't had one. The release of the mugshots did feel like an accomplishment and something almost sort of tangible that we could like, okay, here's a sign that something is happening within the criminal
Right.
justice system. And the fact that it was their entire team and that the prosecutor said, "I'm ready to do this on the in like next week," basically, it did feel like this was a stride in the direction of justice. We don't know what's going to happen, obviously, though.
Folks, let me know. What do you think? Did this did the mugshots work for you? Did indictment week 3 or 4, however many, work for you? Hit me up on all the social medias. And you know what we're gonna do right now? We're gonna take a quick break so we can learn about our sponsors, and then we're gonna come back. And we are back, and we're ready for topic number 2. We read a piece on the Washington Post about a new working paper from Maxim Mastenkoff and Nathan Wilmers that makes the case that chain restaurants promote much more socioeconomic integration than do independently owned commercial businesses, or for that matter, traditional public institutions. Now, the paper finds that those at the very bottom and those at the very top of the income distribution are much more socioeconomically isolated than those in the broad middle. So the lowest and the highest end up kind of like self-segregating in their own places. Now, before we kind of get into the chain restaurants that the broad middle does rub elbows in, where do you feel in your personal lives that you do this kind of socioeconomic mixing? Did this article make you wonder about your own level of socioeconomic mixing, whether in commercial spaces or in public spaces, in your own lives?
I don't get invited to places.
That's true.
'Cause you ain't
Pete,
bringing
I've
any
never invited you
snacks.
anywhere.
I mean, that it's a really thoughtful question. I think everybody might struggle with when they think about it. Your social life depends on your age and your family and all kinds of things. So I'm 47, married, live in the suburbs. One daughter just went to college. One daughter's in high school. But a lot of the time you hang out with and meet like your kids' friends out here in the wasteland. And I came to realize that I don't like the whites. Because as things change, like in a predominantly like a lot of white spaces, you were kind of trying to figure out which side people were on. So I started gravitating in those kind of social settings. Like I just would avoid people because I just didn't want to run into another Trumper. I didn't want to spend any time talking to them. So for me, like this is an interesting issue because I've always kind of gravitated towards people who weren't me, didn't look like a gargoyle crouched on the corner of a building, Skeletor, white, male, whatever, heterosexual. Like I'm more interested in people who are different, and I've tried to lead my family in that direction. But it doesn't always work. People self-segregate, whether it's in school, whether it's in suburbs, even where there's diversity. We still all self-segregate. Black folks hang out with black folks. Indian folks hang out with the Indian folks. Asians, and so on and so forth. And obviously the whites. So I mean, I wish that weren't the case. Church used to bring people together. There's different ways, but it's tough to make that happen unless you go to some of these chain restaurants that we're going to talk about, I guess.
Peppermint, what do you think?
People, I think in my life, it's probably, I mean, and definitely in the streets of New York, you encounter like lots of people. I think the sidewalk is one place where you're going to see, I don't think that we've achieved like the private, like penthouse entrance from the airplane yet, and so like everybody has to be on the sidewalk, and a lot more people of different socioeconomic standing ride the subway. I think that you can see all types of people at different times of the day, especially during like the morning hours, like rush hour hours, and so I think those are places that those folks mix. I am shocked actually to hear that Chili's is the place where you could have a billionaire and someone who's not. But
somebody's never had their nachos.
Yeah.
Once you taste them.
I've never had their nachos. Wait, is that a pitch for their
Yeah,
nachos?
are they?
Good?
I mean, everything at Chili's is pretty good.
Are they
I mean,
known for the bloomin' onion?
No, that is
Or
Isn't
that's
that the baby
Applebee's.
back ribs?
Outback
Oh, I
Steakhouse,
want my
Nadine.
baby
Come
back, baby back,
on.
baby
What is
back. I
wrong
want
with
my
Wait,
you?
Chili's
so
has the baby back.
Chili's baby back
Baby back
ribs. I want my
ribs.
baby
Yeah.
back.
Baby
It's
back ribs.
Chili's where people mix of different ethnicities and
Oh,
socioeconomics, but not so
That's
much women.
that was their 2020 ad, which only ran for like a month.
I love the idea that Chili's and Applebee's are going to use this sociology paper from like MIT professors as part of their marketing campaign.
Yeah,
I love the
Applebee's
idea.
doesn't need anything to make it seem. I love diversity and inclusion, but Applebee's does not need another thing to make that restaurant look and appear more cluttered than it already is.
I love the idea that the super wealthy would ever go into a Chili's. Like, let's get down to Chili's. I want to sit at the bar and have their boneless wings, sweetheart. Like, you could buy a Chili's and bring it to your house. Like, that
Yeah,
guy's.
they're the franchise owner.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, literally though, they found this is the where they found, because they in the study they found that people who go to like the same stores, like CVS, for example, it's true that a rich person will go to a CVS and a poor person will go to a CVS for the same reasons, but they go to the one that's in their closest to their
Closest to them.
neighborhood.
Mhm.
So
we
the
all need reading
CVS's ended
glasses.
up being self-segregated, right? Or the Rite Aids or the whatevers.
Mhm.
And so, but the one place that doesn't, where a rich person still can appreciate the value for money that you get at an Applebee's and at a Chili's and an Outback or whatever. You know, it's so weird. It's so interesting to me that that's the one place that even a rich, like your Logan Roy's, will just be like, I want a bloomin' onion, you know? And that's, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, first of all, do either of you actually ever frequent? I think it's hard when you live in New York City. Do either of you ever frequent these places?
Yes.
I think they used to have something in Times Square or whatever. I've been to an Olive Garden. I've been to Olive Garden.
I've
I
been
think
to an
of the
Olive Garden.
Chili's and the everything we said. I don't remember the name of the restaurants. I've been to an Olive Garden the most of all of those places.
Yeah.
But yeah, not really. I eat at like individual like restaurants that aren't necessarily a chain.
Right, independently.
That's
I mean,
because
so
you got to
Pete,
get
you live in like,
go down to Times Square for that.
I live
right.
in a place, like if you live in New York or a city, you know,
You're not gonna.
and you're going to go out to eat, that's kind of
You
low.
ain't going to Chili's.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
But if you
it's
live
kind of
in the
crazy to do that.
the same could be said of, you know, suburbs. But if you're going to get something like that, where most of America, you know, might drop my daughters off
The
at dance
mall.
or wherever, they're going to be there for an hour, and I would go to Chili's or Applebee's or TGF, one of those types of places. I would sit at the bar, I would get like a beer, and I would eat things. Like that would be my thing.
And was it like Bill Gates next to you? Like, how was that?
I sat next to Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
At Chili's? Or
No.
not probably the dance recital.
No,
Like,
I was
check that
actually
out.
at Epstein's house, I should have said. But
Oh.
he had an Applebee's on his island where I was visiting, apparently.
Well, so here's the interesting thing, because we want for the institutions, the places where people kind of do this gathering, we want there to be some sort of like platonic ideal to where those places are. And to my mind, they would be libraries, right? And they would be public parks. You know, there would be places like that, or even
What
like,
kind of weird Legoland utopia does Negin live in? Libraries and
well, that's what I'm
parks.
saying.
I mean, libraries are a dying thing, right? They're shutting libraries left and right in our country, if you've heard.
Well, they've got a lot of books that are teaching our kids to be ashamed of themselves.
Their whiteness.
And also there's a lot of books with sex in them, and so that's why we got to shut them all down.
Shut them all down. Well, the interesting thing is, like, okay, so the interesting thing, the weird thing is, like, one of the things the article pointed out is having more local libraries is good for promoting access, even if closing it and consolidating a few could theoretically promote more class mixing. So there's that weird conundrum of like, well, if we had fewer libraries that you had to kind of like go to another part of town to go to the library, maybe then you would rub elbows with someone from a different socioeconomic
Yeah, but nobody's
class.
incentivized to get up and go to the library, much less the Chili's.
Right. Well, yeah. And I mean, this sort of oh, sorry guys, do you hear that?
I heard a little something, like a little
Okay,
tingle.
there. Sorry, that was my timer going off, and apologies. So I think there's a cheerful way of looking at this, which is there is actually one place where people can mix, and at least it's at chain restaurants. You know what I mean? But the other thing is, like, are you even talking to people? Is an
No, not the
Applebee's
waitress.
right? You kind of only interact with the wait staff,
Yeah.
and then this sort of makes me understand, like who is it, Friedman, who does the column for the Times and always starts his columns with like an interaction he had with a cab driver.
Is that right?
There's like a joke about
What?
about
Well,
how
I
much
don't want to talk to anybody when I'm at the bar there. I don't understand that people are mixing there, that they're having conversations,
right.
unless you're at the
So they
bar.
would
Who's talking to somebody in the other booth? Like it's not community to go to an Applebee's unless you're hanging out at a bar where you kind of mix with other people. But the question of us going out and where we mix with people that are in different socioeconomics, ethnicities, religions, backgrounds, that's the question of America. Point is, we're all here, but we're definitely not going to the same spaces most of the time. I would argue it's like sports stadiums, if anything.
There's a couple of suggestions I have, and I wonder if you guys have any to add of ways to mix with unexpected folks.
Okay.
One of them is, now this is, I'm not even sure if this will do the trick because I'm not, but okay, but I think that this is an international thing. So you might mix with a lot of international immigrant types and whatever, is to go to soccer games at bars. So there's certain bars in every city where they show soccer games. And I know there's
every Mexican bar for sure.
So exactly. So then you would mix with just a different set of people, I think, if you're let's say an Iranian American Muslim woman who lives in these village and you go to a place that shows soccer, you're going to mix with a different group.
But that's just that's a weird sample of
it's
people.
A weird sample.
Because they're soccer fans, and those are bad people. I am one.
But they're international. There's like a broad range
it's very
of
international.
them.
That's true.
It's very international, lots of immigrants, first generation, so you're going to meet some of those people. If you're not one of those things, that might be interesting for you.
More so than you would. I mean, I feel like that's true for anywhere in the world. If you go to a bar that's showing a soccer game, I feel like it's going to be more internationally mixed, like at least with the teams that are represented by those countries, than they would if you were to say go to an average football game. It's going to be less mixed for sure.
That's why I only go to hockey game night.
Oh, even that's super diverse.
Cornhole on ESPN.
And then okay, so that's one idea. The other thing is, I think having a dog is a big conversation starter at it, wherever you are, intersection. I mean, because I've taken my dog to different places in America, and he's a conversation starter, and it's or someone else's dog will be a conversation starter. So I feel like everyone should, I guess, get a dog so we can all talk.
Well, I feel like I think the most conversations I've started is when I bring my cat to dog spaces. People are like, what are you doing? I'm like, listen, don't judge me. This is my therapy cat.
Do either of you have any suggestions of how people could change the socioeconomic mix?
I would like to change. I don't have any suggestions necessarily, but I do want to point out, I agree with you about the dog park moment, but then I'm thinking the rich folks just have dog walkers. Well, so then we go back down again.
But at least you're meeting them. I think my answer is what I've always believed, which is to crush the rich with taxes so that those taxes go back into communities and create community spaces where we can mix the places that you describe, your utopias, anything from fitness areas to parks to beaches to that's what you all those wealthy people own way too much space and stuff. And they push the rest of the world out, tax them, build community spaces, cut crime, create opportunity. That's how you do it.
I figured it out.
Okay.
The one place that, not the one place, but one place that gets people more mixed and mingled, even more than a Chili's or an Applebee's or a dog park, is definitely a gay bar. Because you're going to get rich gay men, and I mean, it's gender wise, it's not very
Right.
diverse, but like you're gonna get rich folks and poor folks in there, especially if there's go-go dancers or like sex workers in there, you know, who are like doing a little something on the
Right.
side. Then like that's gonna be like, I've seen rich guys. We know rich guys will go anywhere for sex, and so it happens in the gay bar for
Also, a
sure.
disproportionate amount of evangelicals you wouldn't expect.
Hello, yes, the Republican convention. Oh, right outside there.
Yeah, can I say to you, like, I've also, like, I've been to I've wing womaned a few gay gentlemen in my life, and I feel like I've also been able to like just strike up conversation very easily at gay bars. I don't know
Oh
what it
yeah.
is about a gay bar, but it's just like you just chat with whoever's in your line of
And
sight, and
everybody's in there.
yeah, it's just like there's
Yeah, I
something.
don't like. I think you kind of. I don't know. This is a whole different conversation. I'd love to actually have in a more serious way, but I think like I used to go to gay bars when I lived in New York, and certainly when I did comedy in many of them. And my wife and daughters like to go, like drag queen nights and stuff, and they always have a good time. But I feel like when I go to a gay bar, I might be misleading somebody. And I'm like, I'm probably not going to hook up with you. And yet here I am. So I'd love your advice on that, because I love gay people, and I'm, a couple beers away from a gay experience sexually. But I would feel like I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm probably not. I'm not here for that. What do you think?
I mean, as long as you're not like presenting that you're threatened by it, and then it doesn't matter, like
On a
the gays that are in there love to hear that straight guys are in there.
Honestly, I don't want
Yeah.
serious. This isn't a joke. I don't want to make anybody feel the way most women have always made me feel, let down and disappointed. But
Well, no, I just think, well, it's I feel I imagine that you would be just as welcomed as I am. Like, I'm also sexually irrelevant to gay men, but like I feel like, because it's not always about just like the booty. It is about the fun. You know what I mean?
this, the
Yeah.
wrap it up. The least gay place, Chili's.
Yes, I don't
Very
think
true.
that the gays are flocking to Chili's.
Agreed. All right, folks, let me know. Do you go to chain restaurants to rub elbows with the other classes? I'm so curious to know. And read this piece. It was in the Washington Post about about chain restaurants and how they're the great mixer. This is a working paper. I'm very excited to see the final product when it comes out, in my nerdy way. All right, let us move on to topic number 3. So we spend 90% of our time indoors, and the question becomes, should you allow shoes in the house? This can be a sensitive question, and I think some people have a very strict position on it. I want you both to know that this is a safe space. You're allowed to have whatever position. So where are both of you at on the question of whether you can wear shoes in the house?
Oh, I mean, I don't, again, go to people's homes. They don't come to mine. So
Okay, but you still wear shoes in the world.
I think simply for me, I mean, if you're not providing me with the shoe that I prefer that supports my foot, I don't like walking around barefoot or just in socks in my own home because my feet hurt a little bit. All I need is a little arch, and so I like to wear a slipper almost all the time, or even a flip-flop.
Okay, that's a house shoe.
Now you're gonna
A
tell me
house shoe.
come to your house, I'm gonna have to take that off. Well, then you better provide
Some arch support.
There. I don't know about arch support, but I have friends who provide like booties or house slippers or something, like ones that they are like disposable or washable ones that they keep, especially if they don't have carpets. And in New York, but the thing is, in New York, like we're not usually going to each other's houses like that much. I feel like, especially if people live in different boroughs, it's like we're gonna meet somewhere in the middle, and so we're not taking off our shoes. However, when I have had the opportunity to go to somebody's house, and like venture all the way, it's because it's like they just moved in or they got a new place or something, they just had a baby, and so then you go over and like it feels like a special occasion, and so like I take off my shoes. I just take off my shoes when I go to somebody else's house. I offer to do it, and if they're like, you don't have to, then fine.
Also,
but like I want to.
I'd rather clean my floor than see your feet. I will tell you that 9 times out of 10. You don't.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, okay. So I was just hanging out
You're
with
not talking about
Mo.
my feet.
I'm not. Oh, if your toes are climbing on top of each other, all I'm saying is I'm not judging you, but sock that shit up.
My toes are not climbing on top of each other, darling. They are in formation and painted. Okay.
Now, as we all know, Peppermint has impeccable toes, and so my personal feeling is we don't like have an actual like strict rule in my house. I think the rule that we do have is that like we clean the floors a fair amount. We have a dog. So in my position is if you have a dog, it's kind of like hard to not track stuff in anyways. I'm not washing his feet every time he comes in and out. You know what I mean? So with it, when you introduce a dog into the setup, you're sort of like accepting a lot of bacteria. Now, I was hanging out with Mo Rocca, who is a fellow weight panelist,
Oh.
and he's also has does segments on the CBS Sunday morning show. And he did a segment on this, which is why the idea came to me because we were in an airport talking about this. And he was telling me that for the segment, he brought on a keep your shoes on. The keep your shoes off side was the easiest to find because that's the popular opinion is that it's gross to have your shoes on in the house.
Sometimes you offend people's ethnic sensibilities. Like in a lot, you can speak to this probably more than I can, but like in a lot of the Arab world, like that, if you come in,
you take them off. Yeah, it's unsanitary, it's unholy, it's all of that stuff. But Mo was saying that when he was making this piece, he had a hard time finding people that will go on the record. Maybe there's people that will secretly be like, no, we keep our shoes on, it doesn't matter. But to go on the record, he like, it was a bit of a tough time. And he found Amy Dickinson, who was also another fellow weight panelist, and she's also advice columnist or whatever. And she's this wonderful woman. And she lives in the country and in the Finger Lakes region, upstate New York. And she's got dogs and and she's just like, we're sort of in and out of the dirt. And, we're not, it's just too late. It's like that we live in the dirt. So what is the point of taking our shoes off? You know what I mean?
We're in the dirt anyway, so let's not take off our shoes. No, I'm happy to hear that most of the people are like skewing towards taking off their shoes. I just appreciate it, but of course, I grew up. I know that in the article they said there was a little bit of science behind it. And I grew up like you had to take off your shoes in the house, like that was just like it was. So I'm obviously biased.
I feel like
I support it.
People who clean floors in their space, in their living space, have the strongest opinion on that. If you're not the one doing the cleaning, you're less concerned about the floors. I feel like that's why my wife screams at me. I do a lot of the floor cleaning, but she tends to do more of it, and I tend to be in the garden a lot. I bring that in there. I know the tone of her voice when I've tracked in some dirt or some grass or something. I'm in trouble. But that's because she's got to usually clean up after me. I don't care as much about it. But I think if you should have your indoor shoes and your outdoor shoes.
Yeah, and I think shoes off people are basically that. They have their indoor shoes. Now, I think the thing that I would honestly, my personal feeling when people come over, I definitely let people keep their shoes on because for me, in a social situation, one of the things that Amy Dickinson said, she says, I feel like you're valuing your floors instead of my comfort to keep my shoes on, basically.
Yes.
And my thing is like, it's not like I'm having parties every day. I will like just clean the floors after everybody leaves. It's like not that big of a deal. So that's kind of my thing with shoes. Cause I'm going to be honest, I don't want to ruin people's outfits. Like if you have a look, you have a look. I want for you to be able to retain that look.
Yeah. Indoor Crocs, outdoor Crocs. Enough said.
Okay, folks, let me know, where are you on this issue? I'm so curious to know. And again, I don't judge you either way because I sort of skate the line myself. I live on sort of both sides of it. All right, folks, that is the end of the show. I want to thank you both so much for being here. This was so much fun. And I want the people of Fake Nation to be able to follow you and all the wonderful things that you do. Peppermint, where do they do that?
They can hit me at Peppermint247 on all socials.
Peppermint247 on all socials. And then remind them the name of your podcast.
It's called Town Hall, a Black Queer Podcast, which I co-host with Bob the Drag Queen. And of course, it's available everywhere that they get their podcasts.
Oh my God. Subscribe. And Pete Dominick, where do they find you?
My podcast, by the way, is almost the exact same premise as Peppermint. I host a daily podcast, Stand Up with Pete Dominick. I put it out almost every day, even including on weekends. I talk to the smartest people I can find about whatever they know a lot more about than I do.
It's a wonderful podcast. I've had the honor of being on it, and it is just such a great listen. So definitely subscribe to Stand Up with Pete Dominick. And folks, you know where to find me and all the things that I do. I just want to let you know I found out a couple of dates. I'm going to be in San Diego on September 27th and in San Francisco on September 29th doing the Wait, Don't Tell Me stand-up tour. So again, San Diego on the 27th of September and San Francisco on the 29th. Look those up. They're not on my personal website yet, so don't look them up on my website, but look them up wherever you find out about Wait information. And I want to thank everyone who makes the show possibility. That's our tremendous producer, Andrew McGuire, who kept the ship afloat while I was away. Thank you, everyone at HeadGum, for making the show possibility. Thank you to Gabi Alter, who wrote our theme music. You can reach us at fakethenationpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's fakethenationpodcast@gmail.com with any ideas you might have, any electoral races to watch. We'll be taking those in the coming months. And sorry. Now I'm going to go into a coughing fit. You can, and we will be back in your earballs next week.